Well,
this is Sway, and she's going to talk to you about using Raspberry Pi in primary school.
Cool, thank you. I apologise if I shout at everyone. I'm not used to having a microphone, so I just project usually. I've got to remember to try and turn it down and not use my full voice. So really this is kind of a talk for anyone, teachers, I've got children in schools, to try and get computing to be a really, really exciting thing in schools. And it kind of came about with some work I did with a local secondary school. I'm actually a primary school teacher, but I did some work with a local secondary school. And they were telling me that no one really likes computing, they just say they do. And they don't get many people sign up for it, girls or boys. They try and run extracurricular clubs and they get 1 or 2 people, they even bought some Raspberry Pis and no one's interested. And so I kind of reflected on this and looked at, right, well, how could we solve this problem? How could we show everyone how exciting computing can be? And the biggest thing was that in their school they didn't really have anyone that was excited about computing. They had computing teachers because they have to have the subject taught, but they were often business teachers or economics teachers who were pulled in to do computing lessons and didn't necessarily have a passion for it. And from my primary school approach, the children talk so much about computing in our school. They absolutely love it. It's what they all want to do. And these are the children that go up to that secondary school. So if I'm making all these wonderfully excited children who have done all this cool stuff, they go to that school and suddenly that school has no one that likes computing. It just didn't.
That's always a problem going to high school.
Yeah, it didn't add up. So we kind of looked into it and we looked into what we could do. So a bit of background about me. I know the talk says that I'm Sway Humphries. I'm also Sway Grantham. So if you see me online, I'm always Sway Grantham. It works quite nicely as an alias for parents so that if they Google me, they don't get the right name. And I have an online presence as Sway Grantham. I'm a Raspberry Pi certified educator. I was in the first Pi Academy over a year ago now. I'm also a specialist leader in education for Milton Keynes area for primary schools for computing and the old ICT as well. So I do a lot of work with various schools. I do a bit with secondary, not so much, but transition, the early years of secondary to try and maintain that excitement that we have as well. So I kind of started in education. I'd already got my interest in Pis. I went to Raspberry Jams in Milton Keynes in, I think, 2012 now. At that point I hadn't owned one, and I just kind of followed people around and was like, tell me what it does, show me how it works, and started building up my own knowledge from there. But from an education perspective, in 2013, the Raspberry Pi Foundation did a giveaway of Pis if you tried to teach children coding for an hour. I was like, that's easy. It's easy! Never done this before at all. At that point we were still teaching ICT, so it was very much skills based. So I sat down my class. It's great having minions that you can try things out on. So I sat them down and I was like, right, let's go. I'm going to teach you something. You're using Scratch, and I was actually using some of the Code Club resources to help me out. And oh dear, not the best way to start. They had no concept of any of it before, and even following the quite specific instructions of Code Club, it took them a long while. But what I did learn from that is that when I got to the end, they were so proud of this little game. It was like it was Christmas, so there was like presents falling from the sky and the sleigh was trying to catch them, or it was something like that. But they were really, really proud. But for us, it also won us 5 Pis, and we were able to start on our Raspberry Pi journey in my school. So this is 2013. I'm going to now fast forward. I have done talks before about the journey and how we built up to it. They are on YouTube if you want to have a look through. We're going to fast forward to kind of last summer and the reflection of how we got from that point to this point. Excitement. So right in the title, word spread so fast about these Raspberry Pis. I also got asked a lot about cherry pies and various other types of pies. But the children generally knew what they wanted, they just were a bit confused. They are very small in a primary school. So they would come up to me and they would hear about them and they'd want to come and see, and they'd pop in my classroom at break time and just to have a look. They wouldn't even know what it did. For a while we couldn't actually plug them in because I needed adapters from a VGA monitor to a HDMI socket on the Pi, and I didn't have any, I wasn't allowed any money from school, so I was begging, stealing and borrowing. And they would still come and they'd look at them and they'd plug in the keyboard and they'd see what they did. Just to see what it was, and the concept that I wasn't lying to them, that it was actually a computer and it wasn't just a big sort of farce that I had made up. Children would like accuse the other person of lying, like, have you seen it? You so haven't seen it, whatever. And it just became this really big thing. And I can't say there was anything other than drip feeding, talking about it, little bits of information. I didn't sit them all down and go, this is a Raspberry Pi, you must all like it, it's amazing. It was just through, oh, have you seen this little thing? Or I saw this on the news today. And they would come in to me and they would say, so I was watching News Round, and they actually mentioned a Raspberry Pi. You're not the only person that knows about it. Because to a primary school child, you're the only one that knows anything, being their teacher. Now, we started running Raspberry Pi clubs. It was the most oversubscribed club in school. We ran it for 3 terms. Each term, new children. The previous children didn't necessarily like that so much, but we were trying to get through as many as we could for an introduction in the assumption that they would hopefully go home and get involved in other ways. And really, when we look into why they liked it, it's new. Whenever you say to the children about technology in schools, schools are notoriously 10 years behind everyone else. Laptop is subject to this agreement. You get technology in schools so much later, it's so expensive, the investment, the amount of arguing you have to do with governors and stakeholders and everyone else to prove that you need it and it's valuable, it's out of date by the time it gets there. With the Raspberry Pi, we didn't have that battle. We were able to get it there straight away. They were hearing about this technology as a new, up-and-coming thing that was also in their school, that they had seen, that they had touched. And they'd go home and be like, I've seen that, I've had one of those. And their parents are like, what are you talking about? I've no idea. And it was just really nice for them to be current and relevant, and a real-world thing as well. So again, the fostering of the excitement. So this other school, they bought Raspberry Pis because they saw some of the stuff I was doing and they were like, yeah, no one's interested. If you walk up to a stranger that has nothing to do with anything technical and you said, right, do you want a Raspberry Pi computer? Probably not. Not because they don't want one, but they've got no idea what it does, what it's for, whether they'd be able to use it. You cannot just expect people to know what they do. So what I would do is I would drop in little things like this. So you might recognise some of these projects. There's Pie in the Sky, there is the weather station. This one was a bit like your Mini Beast, your bug cameras, except it was inside. They brought the bugs in and put them in the shelters. This is a cat feed dispenser, so you can go away and feed your cats that get really fat. And a robot. Now, most of this, your average primary school child wouldn't actually be able to achieve yet. We're starting from nothing. That didn't matter. The fact that it was exciting, they could see where it could go, they could see all the cool things they could do with it. That's all I wanted. I wanted that enthusiasm, that, okay, when I get really good on doing that, what do I do now? And now it might just be that we're making quite a simple game in Scratch. Or it might be we're turning one LED on and eventually they're going to do a whole light show for something. But it was the fostering of the excitement. It wasn't the, oh well, they'll just put it back in the cupboard because no one's interested, no one knows what they're going to do. And as soon as you start drip feeding them, you get children that pop up and say, oh, I saw this on the internet, or I looked at this. And it was just a really, really powerful way of showing children what they could do. Now, then this shows you a bit about my teaching style. In terms of, I don't tend to tell children much, I just expect them to get on with it and find out themselves. So one of the most powerful things we would do is some of my digital leaders, who are like children minions that help me out, they would go around and they'd have a button and they'd say, what happens when I press this button? Anyone? What happens when I press that button?
Nothing, it's not connected.
Imagine, imagination, be a child, anything could happen. A light comes off. Okay, the world explodes. Okay, TNT, your Minecraft house is gone. It could even be that a unicorn appears. It doesn't matter, okay? The point is anything. Anything could happen.
Teacher disappears.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. And teacher detectors, they're very keen on those. Like, you know when the teacher's coming into the room, you can stop doing whatever you shouldn't be doing. So, the idea that it's a really creative subject, that you should be able to do anything. That's the point of computing. It's not a sit down at a computer and type this out because the spreadsheet says, or the worksheet you're following says type this, now type this, now type this. It's, I want to make that happen, what are the little steps I need to do to get there? And the power of this question, we had all sorts. And again, some of them were thinking these massive things that it's going to take a long time for them to get there. But that's when you go, right, what's the smaller things? That's the bringing down those ambitious ideas into something that's really, really manageable. So then kind of looking at it in a classroom. The beauty of the Raspberry Pi is that you can take with it and do what you want. If you just have the pure Raspberry Pi, you can do things like Sonic Pi and Scratch. And that's a great starting point. One of the other things is for primary school, so we use these across Key Stage 2, so that's 7-year-olds up to 11-year-olds. 7-year-olds' first introduction is going to be very different to someone that's had 4 years experience using technology and being in computing lessons. But we could still use the Raspberry Pi. Education has a terrible habit of buying this for year 1, and this for year 2, and this for year 3, and expenses skyrocket, and actually they're completely different, they don't follow on, they can't see how they've got from A to B. Whereas with the Raspberry Pi, we were just adding skills and changing the context that they were using them in and getting them to think of those creative ideas again and again. So we started with Pibrella, and we did Pibrella in Scratch, so this is with 7-year-olds.
What's it called?
Pibrella. That is the board at the top that has the lights and things already attached. So from a 7-year-old's perspective, breadboarding is very tricky, they're not that coordinated. We end up with things one way around, back to front, LEDs popping and things like that, which, although fun and useful as a learning experience, you get through a lot of LEDs very quickly when you've got a class of 30. So we start off with something that's very controlled and attached, and they do that in Scratch. However, you can also program Pibrella in Python. So those of them that go, Scratch isn't real, I want to see real coding, that's not real coding. You can then say, okay, well here you go, and they see that it's a few hundred lines and think it's much easier to do the Scratch version. But that is learning, and they can see how you're progressing from one to the other. PiGlow there, you've got light shows, 7 segments of Pi. You've got lots of different ways, and again, different schools, different budgets, different things. But you can apply, you can use the way you want to do it. The other thing that they've really got is this whole professionals. Professionals use it. The reason a lot of my year 5s, so by year 5 we've got the attitude, if you don't work with year 5s, you get the attitude by year 5. And, well, yeah, this whole Scratch isn't real. Yeah, why do I need to know how to do this? I'm never going to use it. This is like my life of everything, whether I open my mouth for maths, for writing, for science, I don't even need to know that because I know everything I need to know already.
Well, that was high school.
Oh, believe me, come and visit my year 5s, feel free. Now, this was great because actually then we could say, fine, this is actually what people do for their jobs. And you could show them different bits and pieces. They could see the real world applications, okay? And it managed to join education in the real world, which is something we struggle with a bit at primary because as much as we try to, we do have to dumb it down quite a lot for primary school children, and it does get further and further removed from the real world. So, what did they actually think to all this planning and ideas? Every computing lesson we have is new, so it's really interesting. The idea that we'd done ICT and a lot of them had done Office to death. It's new, we never know what we're going to get. We're building on skills, but actually, I never have to make the same Scratch game twice to get better at it. I could do something else. We can learn something as a class and then work on our own projects. So I might have my learning intention, my education hat on, as variables, understanding what the purpose of a variable is. But then you could go away and you could do your own project that involved variables. Some of them may choose to do the physical computing with the lights and the buttons. Someone else might prefer to do a Scratch game. I can teach them in terms of my box ticking, tick off everything I can do without squashing their creativity and their interests. And they can go off and work on those. It's like we're allowed to play and it's learning at the same time. Kind of is. What do you think I do it for? The Raspberry Pi gives us lots of different ways to learn. So if one way is confusing, we can try another. So the idea that if they don't get it, then maybe it didn't make sense to turn the lights on, but they could go and see someone else's group who's working on Scratch or something else, and they can progress that and these ideas. So, the big thing is schools need to keep up. Even just today, we hear about how children are taking the lead. Now, these are just some projects that I read about recently. There are loads and loads of projects all over. So, these were from 11-year-olds. And one of them, her granddad lived in a quite remote place, didn't have, he had internet, but it was only wired and he couldn't use a computer, so he couldn't use Skype or anything like that. And she was concerned that he would get hurt or something and no one would know for weeks until someone realised he wasn't answering his phone and drove over. So she set up a camera and it would take a photo and send it that she could access through a web browser, and she'd be able to see. She said, it doesn't move or anything, I couldn't work out how to do that, but I can see if a coffee cup's moved today. Or I can see if he's left that remote control there. And it was reassuring for her. It was a real world project for her to help her feel better that her granddad was alone and a long way away from her. Another one, air quality in the room to alert, that's what you get for doing it last night when it was like 11 o'clock, alert asthmatics, okay? So again, they're seeing these problems, they know they might have a child in their class that's severely asthmatic and that they know that if you get certain warning signs then you need to do something about it, and they're trying to solve it. The sushi one, their teacher had got food poisoning from a sushi restaurant where the sushi had been out on the conveyor too long and it'd gone bad and she ate it. So they wanted obviously their teacher to be in school more, they can't have time off. So developed a system that would allow them to check those sorts of things. So I asked my children lots of random questions, and one day I said to them, right, I need to tell all the other teachers and all the other people how to have a really good computing lesson and what we need to include. And I thought it was really interesting what they came up with. So, they wanted variety. They wanted different things, different equipment, different purposes, different activities. They wanted to be able to take that knowledge and apply it, not just to do it because you'd said so to do it, because they were interested in it. They wanted curiosity. They didn't want to be told the answers. It took me a year to get them there because at first they all panicked and were like, she's not helping me, I don't know what to do. But actually, with a bit of training and with a bit of support, the idea of I want to know how this works, I'm going to find out, was quite refreshing. It wasn't because my teacher told me so, it's because I wanted to know the answer. Exploration. They wanted time to explore. They didn't want you to sit down and go, this is a Raspberry Pi, and you plug this in here, and this in here, and this is here, and now you load it up and you type this. Give it to them, give them half an hour, and see what they can do with it, because they will always, always surprise you. They liked unplugged activities as well as plugged, so for those not in education, unplugged is like paper-based things where we can learn the concept and then apply it, because otherwise the children will just blame the computer when it doesn't work. As a lot of adults do as well when their code's not working, but we could then go back and say actually it's your logic that's flawed, not your code, and we could work it out that way. And partners, and I thought that was really interesting, because in education generally we use partners for the reason that we don't have enough equipment for everyone to have one each. And I said to them, if I could give you one each, or if I could organise the class so half did it and half did something else, would you prefer that? And they said no. They do not want to work by themselves. They said learning partners are really important because who do you ask for help if not them? You don't want to interrupt someone working on their own project, but you can have a chat about them. You can both get a computer, look it up on the internet, whatever you need to do together. So, generally, by the end of this time, we had a group of children who were so excited about computing. And this isn't just my class, okay? Yes, I talk a lot about my class. I see them a lot, it becomes habit. But across the school, this is year 3 parents, the year 3 children up to year 6, who are excited, and they're all doing their own smaller, different versions, and just really having a go. Things like last year we used to do easy stuff on computers, but this year is more complicated, but we have a big challenge that we can have a go and we can try and achieve. There was a lot about achievement and the satisfaction of actually creating something like you wanted to. Now we get to see how a computer works rather than just use a computer. Those sort of things, which are really refreshing to hear. A little bit quickly about parents. This is a slide I've stolen that one of my children actually made in a presentation about our school and stuff. We found the parents, bless them, were trying to keep up with their children who we'd sent home with all these cool ideas, and I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to build this system, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And their poor parent is going, so you want to do some baking for a Raspberry Pi at the weekend, yeah? No! What are you on about, Mum? So we actually ran a session where we got all the Raspberry Pis out and parents could drop in and the children would teach them and show them how to use them and how to go at them and try them out. And a lot of them did end up asking for them for Christmas, so I did a bit of a talk about the different models, and don't forget you also actually need to be able to plug it into something like your television, so you will need a keyboard if you haven't got one, and all of those realistic things that children don't really bother about. I did a 10-minute talk about that as well, just to prepare them for it. And I think it's great because some of them then got on board themselves and were like, he's going to teach me once a week to program in Scratch, and then they'd come and be like, yes, what I did, I made the character walk across the screen, so I'd have parents popping in to tell me their achievements as well. But it was really lovely to see that the learning journey hadn't just become me and the kids in my school, but it was also reaching the parents and families as well. Now, as I said previously, I did a talk called Pi in Primary. That bit there. But I did bring 4 digital leaders with me, who are children from my school, who were 10, 11-ish, and they presented at the Raspberry Pi birthday party about their journey and basically life in my classroom and how it is when your teacher just walks off and leaves you to it. But it is on YouTube, and if you haven't already seen it, I do suggest you check it out because they did a fabulous job of presenting, and you can really see that it's not just me saying, oh, well, all the children know this, and they can all do this, and they can all talk about this. You can see it coming from them, and it's a really insightful way for you to be able to. So if you just search Pi in Primary on YouTube, you'll be able to find it anyway.
Are they your kids? Your children?
They're from my class, yeah. Yeah. Various classes, digital leaders, things that I've done with them. Some of them have been with me 2 years, some of them a year. So, generally, that is all I have to say. If you want to get in touch, please do. Either come and see me, or I've got a blog, I've got Twitter, usual things. Anything you want, ideas. My blog is full of everything kind of that I've done up to now. I try and keep up to date, although sometimes my marking takes over and I don't quite get around to it. So always email me and I'll send you the stuff that I haven't yet got on my blog if you want it. Any questions? Yes?
Where do you teach?
Where do I teach? Milton Keynes. But I have Skyped other senior leadership teams and things like that before, if that's helpful to show what we've been doing, or got my kids to Skype in and be like, look, today we did this and this is what we've done, and when you walk past our display it starts telling you all about our artwork and things like that as well, if that's useful if you're not local to Milton Keynes. Yes?
Are you a charismatic teacher?
No, I've been approached, but it's one thing on a long list of things that I already do.
Thanks.
Have you fed into your local high school? I mean, when the kids leave you, they must go really down.
They were a bit shocked, to say the least, when they first came down. I was like, come and have a look. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, the baby primary school teacher who doesn't know anything. And they sort of walked in.
What's the progression for the kids when they get there?
Well, that's what I mean. I brought them down first.
Oh, I see.
And they were like, wow. And I was showing them year 5s because I had access to year 5s every day. The idea that they still had a whole year of learning in my school before they got up there was the shock. But what we've done now is, so I had digital leaders who were in year 5 and 6, who therefore, now 6 have gone up to 7. We're trying to put them into those positions still in their secondary school so they can continue to spread, but also they get other primary schools who aren't as switched on, so they've also got to bring those up. So the digital leaders that I've sent up are helping out with the schools that maybe haven't had those opportunities previously. And it's a work in progress. Different teachers have different comfort levels. For education in primary, it's very new. I was kind of doing bits and pieces before, but a lot of teachers have only been doing this for a year. If you teach year 2 or year 6, you're only starting last week. So it will take a while for it to filter through and for things like this to get going so that teachers can brave it and come and then start trying to implement those things themselves. Yes? Oh, sorry, one last question because he's doing this at me like, stop, please stop talking.
Suggestions then for those children like addiction leaders who go on to secondary school and are totally frustrated because they're in the States and stuff like that now, working on things that...
Again, talking to their schools and anything they can get involved with. There are lots of projects going on around. There are things like Coder Dojos. We've heard things about MozFest. There are things like CamJam. They can come and present, share their ideas, see peers that they can get ideas from. PyCon is next weekend. At school, but again, they take those ideas into school, they show off what they're doing. My digital leaders ran clubs for me, so they would be the ones running the Raspberry Pi Club for the 7-year-olds, because then I didn't have to, because I didn't have enough time. So again, it gives them those positions of responsibility where they can show off their skills, but also they have to have a very good understanding to be able to explain their learning to someone else. If you do have any more questions, come and find me, because they might go and chat.
Thank you very much.